This is another story from Assorted Gems of Priceless Value by Nels Lundwall. One of the three Nephites visits the Huntingtons. It was a cold night in the latter part of November, and in the home of William Huntington the family gathered around a big fireplace in the spacious kitchen. After the evening meal, when all the evening work was done, it was the habit of this family to get their instruments of music and sit around blazing logs and play the old-fashioned tunes and hymns, also tunes of more cheerful air, although they did not dance. Grandfather Huntington played the bass viol, his daughter Zina the cello, William the cornet, and Dimmick the drum. There were 5 sons and 2 daughters. The oldest daughter, Priscilla, being married, lived some distance from them. It was a happy New England family, and they lived the clean, pure life of the Puritan stock. After the music ceased, a hush fell on the group, and a knock was heard on the door. And as it opened, a strange old gentleman of medium weight, dressed in old-fashioned clothes and carrying a bundle on his arm, appeared, and stepped into the room and said, "I usually bend my steps to some sequestered vale. May I find lodging here tonight?" With cordial welcome he was invited in and given a place by the fire, in an old easy farm chair, and Mother Huntington asked if he would like some supper, and modestly he said he would. Then a good New England meal was spread before him, with milk, honey, maple syrup, cold meat, delicious homemade bread, and butter. He partook of a light supper, while the family spoke in soft tones. It was the custom to read a portion of the Scriptures before going to bed. He then again joined the circle, and Father Huntington began to read from the Holy Bible, a portion of the New Testament to which they all listened attentively. Grandmother Huntington made some comment on the fact that they would like to hear the gospel in its fullness as explained and taught by the Savior. The stranger immediately took up the subject and began explaining the Scriptures and quoting the sayings of the Savior in what seemed to them a new light and greater beauty than they had ever thought of before. They sat in rapt attention, listening to every word. Both Father and Mother Huntington agreed that his explanations, while the boys exchanged glances of admiration, and the daughter was spellbound and gazed upon the stranger with admiration and reverence. After 1 hour spent in conversations upon the sacred subject, Father Huntington had prayers, Mother Huntington prepared a comfortable resting place for the stranger, and he bid them good night, the boys going upstairs, Father and Mother Huntington to their bedroom, which led from the kitchen. And Zina in her little bed heard her parents talking in low tones about the wonderful stranger and discussed the things he said. The stranger had filled them with awe and reverence, such as they had never felt before. In the morning every one was astir, bright and early, as is usual on a farm when so much work has to be done both outside and in. The stranger sat placidly, watching the remarkable family with whom he took breakfast. The family invited him to stay, but he said he had other places to visit, and he left them, standing in a group as he closed the door softly. When Father Huntington saw the stranger depart, he sent Dimmick after him to tell him to come again. He immediately opened the door, and they all looked out to see and call the stranger back. But he was nowhere to be seen. When looking on the doorstep, where the snow had fallen the night before, no trace of a footstep could be seen, and the boys, running from all directions, said that he had vanished and could not be found. Father Huntington remarked that he was the strangest person that ever was, and he could not understand where he went. But he had shown them the gospel in a new light. Mother Huntington felt that this stranger was some messenger from heaven, and all the family were deeply impressed with his wonderful influence and beautiful way of explaining the scriptures. When the gospel of life and salvation was brought to them by Hiram Smith and other elders, they seemed to coincide with what the stranger had told them concerning the Bible and the restoration of the gospel. All of the family, but one, accepted the gospel and prepared to emigrate in a few years to Kirtland. Here they met the prophet of God, Joseph Smith, and became his faithful and loyal followers and friends. On an occasion when the prophet Joseph was speaking of the three Nephites, Brother Huntington related this little incident to him. He laid his hand on his head and said, "My dear brother, that man was one of the three Nephites who came to prepare you for the restoration of the gospel and its acceptance." Many incidents of a similar nature occurred, but those were days when the children of men were seeking for guidance in the new and enduring faith which is as old as the world, but had been forsaken by men, and it was again brought forth by the power of God through his humble servant, Joseph Smith. This concludes this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.